Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Recently on the #1 podcast in the world, I think, the Joe Rogan Experience. That's wild how Joe Rogan's the #1 podcast in the world.
Yeah, he's just got like his hands in all kinds of different pockets. Man. Good for him.
But on the podcast, he was talking about the Olympics, and I think I've heard him say this in the past, and I agree with him. Before I let you talk about it. I'm not really a big fan of the Olympics, right? To me, the Olympics, if you've seen what's been going on the last, I don't even know, 20 years, and the kind of the moves that they have made is very interesting and very concerning at the same time, because the Olympics they're not the Olympics anymore. But Joe was saying that the Olympics is the biggest scam. These are his words. The Olympics is a giant scam. There's two things going on simultaneously. You have the best athletes in the world participating in their disciplines. That's happening. And then on top of that, you have enormous amounts of money being made, and none of it is going to the athletes. It is a giant scam. So what do you think of those comments?
I see where he's coming from 100%, because like these are some incredible athletes, right? Where in a lot of cases we really only get to see them once every 4 years. So if we're talking like how superhuman some of these people are, like gymnasts, divers, and stuff, like swimmers, track and field. We see it during the Olympics and their popular events, but outside of the Olympics, we're not like tuning in to watch, the track and field world championships or anything like that. So the level of athlete and the prestige compared to the amount of compensation they're getting for showing up, and then, how little compensation in some cases for actually winning their events, it's pretty rough for them, because I've heard so many stories of athletes in sports where the Olympics is the pinnacle of their event, where it's like if it's judo or wrestling, for example, the Olympics is the highest possible place you can go. And so like they put a lot of weight on that. There's a lot of significance there. If it's boxing, then it's kind of considered the highest of amateur sport in that sense. And then after winning a gold medal at the Olympics, then you can go on to professional boxing. So there's like a stepping stone after that for some of these sports, but not all. And so those sports that have the Olympics at the pinnacle, it's really tough for them, because you want to see them doing well, right? They're really, really struggling. Like in some cases, you could be top 5 in the world and basically be living in a van just so like you can get to the training that you need to, or just because you can't afford to pay rent. So like you basically have to live at the gym or sleep at the gym or something. There's plenty of those stories.
Oh, without a doubt, there's a lot of those stories. And there's an article that came out recently about how certain countries compensate their athletes for winning medals, like gold medal, silver, bronze.
Right.
And they compare like Singapore, I think, to the United States, and they're like, Singapore is just like 6 figures they're giving to their athletes, right? In the U.S., I think they're getting like 20,000 or something like that, which is very
right.
If you're getting 6 figures, and in the U.S., right, which is supposedly the pinnacle of sports, right?
Yeah.
The U.S., America.
Right.
It's sad. And you know what, though? I don't think the Olympics... Actually, I don't think the countries should be responsible for compensating the athletes. The Olympics should be responsible for compensating. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It only happens every 4 years.
Right.
And they're making billions in between that as well, And then you got all these cities competing to have the Olympics.
Right.
And they're getting money from that.
Yeah.
Where's all this money going?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because, like, well, I guess if we count the Winter Olympics, too, then I guess there's an Olympics, like, every 2 years. But even still, right, like, it's so weird. Like, I can't wrap my head around how the compensation will look either, in all fairness, because if you kind of think about it from a sporting event, right, if we've got some of the best in the world at their respective sport, it's like, how would we think about, like, Soccer World Cup, Super Bowl, PGA Tour, like UFC, like championship, all in the same, we'll say like 2-3 week like time span, like that. I'm not sure how the logistics of that would roll out too, you know? So like that sounds like a very, very difficult business problem
Mm-hmm.
to kind of figure out like on behalf of the athletes. And then on top of that, it's like
And it's not like the Olympics pays for the athletes to go to the Olympics.
right.
If it was like that, then there's some reason to like kind of, argue against what Joe Rogan is saying.
Right.
But they don't. The countries, you see like GoFundMe's,
Yeah.
for
Olympians,
Olympic athletes.
which is
like, you're like, what
crazy.
the fuck?
Yeah.
Like you said, these guys, some of these sports, it's the pinnacle. Like,
Uh-huh.
beyond the Olympics, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, gymnastics. Like, what's beyond
Right.
Olympics and gymnastics, right?
Yeah.
That's why gymnastics is so big,
Right.
because that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
But, like, yes, it is weird. Like, they don't take care. Like, the only thing that they really do is, like, throw the events.
Right.
And then to get there and to train, to prepare and all this stuff, they have to pay for it all themselves, or the country has to pay for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of these countries are not rich, you know what I mean?
Right.
Even the U.S. is a rich country, but they don't really spend that much money compared to other countries.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Compared to like budget allocation, percentages don't look very good.
Yeah, and it's also ridiculous the type of like sports that are in the Olympics
That's
right now.
true.
Like, it's just...
Yeah.
Like speed walking? How is that a sport? Like, how do you know that they're not like lightly jogging?
Yeah, I remember looking, because I was flipping through the channels. This was like probably 1 or 2 decades ago at this point, but then I tuned in the speed walking, and I was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, no disrespect to the athletes, obviously. I'm sure it's like difficult,
Yeah.
but I was like, is this a joke? Because like the form of speed walking is like
It's like you have to take a shit and you're like running to the bathroom.
Yeah, you look constipated, but
Yeah.
like, so I think the rule is you have to at least have one foot fully planted on the ground at a time. So like when you run, for example, there's like certain times where both feet are in the air, right? Which is what makes speed walking look so silly, because it's like full plant, full plant, full plant. But then you have to be doing that in succession pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which-
And like your hips have to be moving.
Yeah,
right? Like,
it's
everybody
big
has to
on
have
the
hips.
Yeah, it's big on like the hip rotation apparently.
like you have to show that, so you're showing that you're not jogging.
Yeah,
Because when you jog, you don't have the hip rotation, right?
Yeah, some of these sports I don't like.
I don't
like
understand.
synchronized swimming, for
Yes.
example. It's
I don't
like I understand how difficult it must be
Oh, for sure.
to swim at the exact same time and pace as another human being. But it's like, but did it get that much level of recognition and prestige to be included in a very small list of sports that are allowed to be contested
Yeah.
at the Olympics? Skateboarding they added in, which was like really cool.
It is cool, but then at the same time, is skateboarding a sport though? Like,
Right.
it's like what's another one? Breakdancing.
Yeah.
Like, I like watching it and all that, but I don't know if that's an Olympic sport.
Yeah,
you know?
my high
That's
school.
why it says it's all about money, because
Yeah.
those are like the niche, like sports.
Yeah, because
that can draw on different crowds.
right, and you have to lobby in your sport
Yeah.
to get into the Olympics. Like I remember when they cut wrestling as an Olympic sport, which is just ridiculous. Like to begin with, there were I think 2 other sports that were basically lobbying for that like position, right? And one was like squash or racquetball or the equivalent. I forget what the other one was, but it came down to like 1 or 2 votes, I think, in favor of wrestling that kept wrestling in, from like 2016 onwards. And so it's like it felt very much like a business pitch. It's like you go to a bunch of venture capitalists, which is, in this case, the IOC, International Olympic Committee, and then you're basically pitching your sport to be in. It's like, here's the numbers, like here's the viewership that's growing, right? It's like you can't make it about tradition and prestige, or you can't sell it as the most traditional and prestigious event anymore if
Yeah.
this is the way you're making decisions, so yeah, there's so many weird things about the Olympics.
I think like the Olympics long ago, they should have had like prize money for each medal, at least. Like they're making billions and billions from television,
Right.
ads, market, all this stuff. They're just raking in cash, right? It's insane, like the amount of cash. And everybody just wants to be a part of the Olympics, so they're not gonna they don't really have to pay them.
Yeah,
The
right.
broadcasting companies are coming to broadcast it.
Yeah.
Your ads being on Olympics is major because it's all over the world, right? So they're
Absolutely.
paying crazy amounts of money.
Yeah.
I would think like you would think that they would have enough money to like for whatever amount of events that they have. Like each event, there's only gonna be 3 winners, right?
Right.
There's the gold, silver, and bronze. I think gold you get $1 million. Silver you get the 500K.
Yeah.
And bronze you get 250K. Even if you win bronze, that's life-changing money.
It
man.
is. Yeah.
Imagine like you're a squash bronze medalist. That's life-changing money, dude.
Yeah,
like,
50K you can live for a year in a lot of countries.
Yeah,
Like
I'm talking about
multiple years.
250K.
Ooh, 250Ks. You could basically in a lot of these athletes' cases, for 250K, you could sponsor yourself for an entire Olympic cycle.
Yeah.
Like go into the next Olympics, all you have to do is train full time. Like in a lot of these cases.
Right.
Yeah.
It changes the life, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they don't want to go to the next Olympics and they say they want to retire, then that gives you enough. Like let's say $250,000 U.S. cash in Thailand. Like you could buy a home for like 50.
Yeah.
Possibly, right?
Right. That's a massive lump sum.
Yeah, and then you got 200. Right, USD to start our own business, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does. It's life changing. That's what I want the Olympics to be for the athletes,
Absolutely.
right? You get to compete against the best in the world, obviously. But then if you're at the top of the mountain, there's got to be something. You can't go to the Olympics and medal and then you're working like you're a fucking Grab driver.
Right.
And that happens.
Absolutely.
You know, like and it's insane. It's like blows my fucking mind. Like these dudes are sitting up in the OIC committee or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't even fucking like blink an eye to that. They're just like they don't care.
Yeah, there are Olympians with full-time jobs that have nothing to do with their sport, I think. And you know, in some of these cases, I get the impression that these jobs are professions that they have like a genuine passion and interest in it. You know, I think I saw a headline this morning where someone who got a gold medal at like the trampolining part of gymnastics or whatever, I think she studies like paleontology or something, or like is a paleontologist, studies certain dinosaurs or whatever, right? Like good for her, that's really cool. But yeah, in cases where I know for sure you're not doing it for your passion of, you know, an office job or something. When I graduated college, the big name was, I think, Gwen Jorgensen. So she, I think, runs as a triathlete. But they were making a particularly big deal out of it because she would work her training around like a full-time Big Four accounting job. I think she was at Ernst & Young at the time. And I think she has since quit, like now that she's got no sponsorships and stuff. Now she's a full-time athlete. But just having worked at a Big Four accounting firm before, those hours are brutal. Yeah. Like I can't imagine how difficult that would have been. You know, that's like, especially if you're trying to run crazy long distances, that probably means you have to get up at like 4 a.m. and then, you know, get like a 2-hour run in or whatever just to complete that distance and then go to work and then probably swim during your lunch break and then, I don't know, hop on a bicycle or something at the end of the workday. So it's just
that's not how Olympic athletes should be training, right?
Yeah.
At all. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
But you know what? Connected to this is once this article came out and you know you see it on social media, then people are responding to that, right? Obviously, and connecting the UFC to that. Yeah. And you know the UFC, there's always that complaint about fighter pay, and they're like Rogan's complaining about fucking Olympics when he fucking works for the UFC, who does the same exact shit, pretty much. You know, and I was just like, they do make a point. Yeah. Like, the fans do make a point. Like, Rogan should be talking about it both ways, right? But obviously, he's a UFC guy. He's been there forever. Right. I wouldn't expect him to do that, right? Because he's boys with Dana White. Like, right. It's like you and me, and then you were, like, working for some company. I would never, like, publicly come out negatively towards you. Right. Because we know each other. I would rather just come to you and talk to you about it. Yeah. Not just on my show. Right. Who is #1 podcast in the world and just trashed my employer or my friends or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a multi-million viewership for pretty much every episode, I think, right? Yeah. So I think raising the awareness for it is really cool. You know, it's like I feel like anytime Joe Rogan mentions, you know, like a super famous athlete in another, you know, whether it's like Simone Biles or Jordan Burroughs, Ben Askren, whatever, right? Like, it it raises their awareness to a pretty cool amount, and then they get more visibility, they get more attention.
Yeah.
Now they can get more sponsors and stuff. So I think he's doing a good job, sort of taking an advantage of his platform that he knows there's people watching, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, cool, let's bring some attention here.
Yeah.
But he's pretty genuine about it too, where it's like, I'm just here to talk and like have a good 2-hour conversation or something.
Yeah, but then there's also his views
Mhm.
and his stances
That's
on
true,
things.
and people seem to absorb those.
Yeah,
you know?
they absorb it because they think he's like some superhuman in some ways.
Right,
Right. He's
right.
become like a figure that's larger than life to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like the Joe Rogan army, like they're just
Mhm.
they're fucking off of brain and
Yeah.
wake up in MCT oils and all that.
Right,
Like their
right.
whole routine is based off Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, there's 100% out there somewhere, like a Joe Rogan cult following that
Oh.
Joe Rogan's probably not even aware of.
No,
you know?
and he doesn't care.
Right.
Like he does not care. He's like, he probably says, if you're doing good, good.
Yeah.
Like, but he's not gonna be like, yeah, those are my guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's not feeding off of it.
Right, right.
Because he knows that there's no purpose for that. Like,
Mhm.
why? Like, there's no reason to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Rogan, man, he's in a peculiar position.
Mhm.
But I think his opinions, like you said, his audience is so big that his opinions can affect
Yeah.
many individuals, and I'm
Mhm.
glad he's coming out and saying that the Olympics is a scam because
Mhm.
it is, and the UFC as well. Like, this opens up the topic of the UFC too. You know?
Right, right.
But yeah, we could talk about the fighter pay and beat it to a dead horse, but you know what I mean. Like,
Mhm.
we're not here for that.
Yeah.
So, peace.